All right, UFC Seattle Pyfer versus Adesanya is this weekend. Pretty good card overall. I'm going to go through every single fight, give you guys the notes and style of each fighter, as well as my best bets and prediction for each fight. Let's get into it. All right, the first fight on the card: Bruna Brazil versus Alexia Tainara. Alexia Tainara, some notes on her. Her only loss actually comes to Bruna Brazil way back on the regional scene, but outside of that fight, she's 13-0. She was supposed to fight Fatima Klein on the Dana White Contender Series. The bout got canceled. Then she got rebooked on the Contender Series, goes on, gets a win, and now she's 2-0 in the UFC. Her style, she's a high level grappler with decent power in her hands. Once she gets in that top position, she's absolutely mauling. She's constantly looking to finish the fight, rips really nasty ground and pound. Her opponent, Bruna Brazil, she comes out of the Fighting Nerds gym. At one point, she was one of the better women's MMA prospects. She knocked out Wang Kong, but she's 3-4 in the UFC and has been fairly win loss, with her most recent fight being a really frustrating loss to Caitlin Souza, I believe. Her style, she's a technical point kickboxer with frustratingly low output. She has very little urgency. She just kind of lets fights get away from her, does not do enough to win the fight, kind of will accept positions up against the cage, and just does not throw nearly enough to win fights. And it's extremely frustrating to watch because a lot of these fights that she's in, she does have the chance to win, but she just doesn't do enough to win them. My prediction for the fight, I think Alexia Tainara runs through her completely. I don't understand this matchmaking at all. Bruna Brazil, maybe she's able to survive and doesn't get finished by TKO in the first round, but even if she does, I think she's going to get dominated in all three rounds. Like I said, the matchmaking makes no sense. Bruna Brazil is coming off of a loss and is now getting a shot against one of the better contenders inside the rankings. I don't get it at all. I think Alexei Tarnora, the safe bet is just the money line because maybe KO decision, but at the same time, I feel like she could also pull off a sub. So Tainara at minus 700, there's a reason why she's minus 700. I think she's going to get this done with relative ease, whether if it's early or if it's just by a grueling 3 round decision. Second fight of the card, Ricky Simone versus Adrian Yanez. Ricky Simone, some notes on him. He went on the Contender Series in 2017, won, but then did not get awarded a contract, goes back on the regional scene. I think he gets a couple more wins and then debuts in 2018 against Marab. Actually beats Marab, but overall in the UFC is 10-6, with all of his losses coming to pretty high level opponents. His style, he's a smothering, control heavy grappler, does great on top, good entries, but on the feet he's very reckless. He leaves himself very susceptible to shots, throws these big kind of looping shots, but he's not on the feet for very long. He looks to take the fight to the mat. His opponent, Adrian Yanez, he was 10-3 on the regional scene, gets a round one knockout in the Contender Series. 5 straight performance of the night or fight of the night bonuses to start his UFC career, but recently he's been 1-3 in his last 4. His style, he's a talented striker that will stand directly in front of you. He wants to take one to give one, but that style has kind of just been exposed by the better talent that he's faced recently, and I think that's why he's struggled, and has the record of 1-3 in his last 4. My prediction for the fight, I think Rick Simone gets it done by unanimous decision. I think the fight to go over 1.5 rounds makes a lot of sense. Simone over on takedowns makes a lot of sense. And then the Simone money line at minus 140. I think the only way Yanez can do this is by clipping Ricky Simone, which has been done and it can be done. But Adrian Yanez hasn't really faced this level of grappler yet in his career. And his plotty-ish style of just standing directly in front of you and trying to trade, I don't think it's going to work. And so while, yes, he can clip Ricky Simone because Ricky Simone is reckless, I don't think he's going to be able to keep the fight on the feet for long enough to be able to do so. So I think Ricky Simone's going to get it done by unanimous decision, and at minus 140, I think it's pretty good value as well. All right, next up on the card, we have Navajo Sterling versus Bruno Lopez. Navajo Sterling, some notes on him. He's a young, undefeated fighter that trains out of City Kickboxing. He got an impressive knockout win on the Dana White Contender Series, and since then, he's been 3-0 in the UFC, but he is largely untested, with the majority of his wins coming over pretty low level competition. The style of him, he's a very natural kickboxer. He comes from a kickboxing and Muay Thai background. He's still growing his game, evolving his grappling, but he gets hit a lot and dishes out decent punishment. He's a very good athlete, but he's just not winning these fights with the emphasis that he should up to this point so far. Bruno Lopez, his opponent, he was 12-0 on the regional scene, became a champ in LFA, loses on the Contender Series, then goes back, gets a win. Now he's 1-1 in the UFC so far. His style, he just looks to fight in the clinch, sneak takedowns, hold you up against the cage. Fairly below average fighter with a pretty boring style, and both of his losses have come by knockout. My prediction for the fight, I think Navajo Sterling gets it done by unanimous decision. I'm playing it safe with unanimous decision. I think Sterling KO decision obviously makes sense at minus 425. Lopez under on significant strikes is something that I think is definitely, that's probably the safest bet of everything. And then I think the odds in this fight are a little nuts. I think Navajo Sterling was up to like a minus 700 favorite just a few days ago. And I like him as a prospect, and he's a good fighter, but Bruno Lopez is not that terrible. And so, a double chance of him at sub decision at plus 575, there's maybe a world where he just kind of wrestle fucks Navajo Sterling into a boring decision. And, there's not really much he can do. But I'm going to count on the young, undefeated guy that's training out of a very good gym. I'm going to count on him improving. Maybe he gets a finish and maybe we see kind of a coming out party, but I think regardless, he's able to get it done and defeat Bruno Silva. Casey O'Neill versus Gabriela Fernandez. Casey O'Neill, the notes on her: she was undefeated on the regional scene, made her UFC debut in 2021, started off her UFC career going 4-0 with 3 finishes, but she's 1-2 in her last 3, and she has not fought since August of 2024. Her style, she's a very skilled pressure fighter that's able to get damage off in very crafty ways. I think that's just kind of the word I would use to describe her overall striking ability. She's just very crafty. Uh, she has good scrambling ability and takedown defense, but primarily looks to keep the fight standing. Her opponent, Gabriela Fernandez, she went 8-1 on the regional scene, became a champ over in LFA, starts her UFC career 0-2, but then since then, she's pieced together a really nice 3-fight win streak. She's a very tight technical striker, high end speed, pretty low output. And then once again, she has a grappling base as well, but also looks to keep the fight standing. My prediction for this fight: I think Casey O'Neill gets it done by unanimous decision. This is a very, very close 50-50 fight. I think Gabriela Fernandez has a speed advantage and maybe a slight power advantage. But I think over the course of 3 rounds, Casey O'Neill just kind of, you know, finds more creative ways to land shots and ends up getting it done over the course of 3 rounds. Like I said, it's a very close fight, very 50-50. O'Neill at the time of recording is minus 105. That could change. Fight go to the distance makes sense as well. Both of these women have gone to a decision in a majority of their fights. But like I said, very close fight. I just like O'Neill a little bit more, and I think she's able to get it done in this one. The file for 2 of these fights got corrupted, so I had to re-record them. My voice might sound a little bit hoarse, and this is gonna look kind of off. But Marcin Tybura versus Tyrell Fortune. Marcin Tybura is a very experienced guy that's been in the UFC since 2016. He has been one of the better ranked guys in the UFC over the past 5 years, only ever really losing to good heavyweights. He's very plotty and awkward, but he's also a very complete fighter with a complete skill set. He seems to be looking worse and worse recently as he reaches the tail end of his career. His opponent, Tyrell Fortune, he went on a huge run in Bellator. He's recently bounced around from promotion to promotion, but now he's making his UFC debut. His style, he's a fairly athletic heavyweight. He has finishing ability, but has not really fought anybody of UFC level. He has a wrestling background, but seems to lose to elite level wrestlers. My prediction for the fight: I think Tybura is going to knock him out in the first round. Could be knockout, it could be submission, but I think he's able to find a finish over a guy that I think is just an above average regional scene fighter. I did not really notice anything special in Tyrell Fortune in his tape over the regional scene, and I think Marcin Tybura is still one of the best heavyweights in the world. So not really sure of this matchmaking or what it is, but I think Tybura runs through him. And him as the underdog is crazy to me, so I think that's pretty good value there in him. Chase Hooper versus Lance Gibson Jr. Chase Hooper, some notes on him: he went undefeated with a 100% finishing rate on the regional scene. He was on a really impressive winning streak, but spent too much time gooning, got clipped badly in his most recent fight at UFC 319. Debuts in the UFC as a featherweight. He went 2-3 in the featherweight division, then moved up to become a lightweight, went 3-1. His style, he's a very, very slick BJJ grappler, great submission ability, but he just doesn't really have the durability or the build to take punishment. I think once people land flush on him, it can go really, really poorly for Chase Hooper. He does not have kind of the thickness, I guess you could say, to endure punishment. His opponent, Lance Gibson Jr., his father, Lance Gibson Sr., was a former UFC fighter. He went 9-1 on the regional scene, signs with the UFC to debut against King Green on the last card of 2025. His style, he's just a very basic and average fighter. He has finishes on the regional scene, but I mean, in his debut fight, maybe I'm being harsh on him because King Green has looked really good recently, but in his debut fight, there was just not a lot to like. very average speed, striking, grappling ability, all looked, like I said, just fairly average. My prediction for the fight, I think Chase Hooper is going to submit him in round one. Hooper's submission at plus 210 is really, really great value because while I do think Chase Hooper will get it done regardless, and maybe it is by decision, he is a submission artist, and at plus 210, I think it's really good value. Hooper money line at minus 260 is also pretty good value. But yeah, Lance Gibson, I think they're just throwing him on this card because he's a Canadian and he has a pretty good storyline attached to him with his dad. But Chase Hooper is maybe not one of the better guys unranked, but he is a pretty good fighter, and I think he's able to get it done in this one.
I have to record this one late as well. This is the only other one. Sorry if it's a bit scuffed, but Ignacio Bahamondes versus Tafik Musayev. Ignacio Bahamondes, he was 10-3 on the regional scene, was a bit of a journeyman, gets a win on the Contender Series. Since joining the UFC, he's 6-3, with his most recent fight being lost to Rafael Fiziev. But outside of that, I think he's still one of the best fighters at 155, especially not ranked. His style, he's absolutely massive for a lightweight. He's 6'3". He's just a very rangy kickboxer with a very well-rounded skill set. His opponent, Tafik Musayev, he was a huge fighter on the regional scene in Ryzen. Signs to the UFC, gets finished in the first round by Medtebek by his style. He's a light, explosive striker with experience and finishing ability, but he is smaller for the division and he's getting older. My prediction for the fight, I think Ignacio Bahamondes knocks him out in the third round. It's unfortunate that this is one of my later recordings. I'm not able to kind of go full into depth as I would like to, but Ignacio Bahamondes, in my opinion, is one of the best bets on the entire card. One of the best parlay legs you can have at minus 300. I think he's able to use his range, just kind of control the fight against Tafik Musayev. If Musayev does win, it's going to have to be by clipping him, so I think the fight to end in KO makes a lot of sense. And Musayev under significant strikes, because I don't think he's going to be able to enter range with Bahamondes like he would like to. So I think Bahamondes gets it done pretty easily in this one.
Terrence McKinney versus Kyle Nelson, one of the more exciting fights on the card. Terrence McKinney, yeah, T-Rex, Terrence McKinney. He loses on the Contender Series after a really good regional scene run. Debuts in the UFC, gets a few more wins, but since then he's just been fairly win-loss. He has the third shortest average fight time in UFC history. That's how fast his fights go. His style, he's kill or be killed. He's so dangerous. He has great power. He has really good submission ability. He is also just extremely vulnerable to the point where it's just, which one's going to happen first. Like I said, it's kill or be killed with Terrence McKinney. His opponent, Kyle Nelson, he went 12-1-1 on the regional scene before getting signed to the UFC in 2018. He's 5-5 in the UFC. His most recent fight was him moving up to lightweight. He was a featherweight for the majority of his career, moves up to lightweight and gets a win. His style, he's a dangerous guy. He's got plenty of finishing ability. He just struggles against higher level opponents. He's not very durable or defensively sound. Which leads me to my prediction. I think Terrence McKinney's going to get it done by round one. TKO. I cannot in good faith tell you to bet on Terrence McKinney. That would not be me setting you guys up for success. But the fight to go under 1.5 rounds makes plenty of sense. Like I said, Terrence McKinney has the third shortest average fight time in UFC history. This fight is going to be done very soon. If it's not, I will be extremely shocked. The fight to go under 1.5 rounds is one of the safest bets on this entire card. But in this kind of giant, collision between these two guys, I do think I'm going to take Terrence McKinney. Kyle Nelson's was getting finished by featherweights, and I think Terrence McKinney is a true lightweight. And I don't think I can say the same for Kyle Nelson. I think Terrence McKinney's able to get it done early, but at the same time, you never know. So hopefully Terrence McKinney gets it done, but the fight to go over 1.5 rounds just makes too much sense. All right, next up, Mansour Abdulmalik versus Yorsi Belgarui. This is another really good one. Two up-and-coming guys in the middleweight division. Mansour Abdulmalik, some notes on him. He's a 9-0 fighter with a 100% finishing rate. Goes on the Contender Series, gets a round 2 finish, and since then, he's just been running through the competition in the UFC so far. He's one of the best prospects in the middleweight division. His style, he's just a very violent guy. He has a very impressive grappling skill set. He uses his length and speed very decently as a striker, but his cardio is very untested. He's never seen a round 3 in his entire career because he's been finishing everybody. But his opponent, Yorsi Belgarui, he trains at the Glover Teixeira gym with Alex Pereira, Sean Strickland, those guys. He's a longtime kickboxer over in Glory. Actually has a win over Alex Pereira. I think he has a win over Alex Pereira and then like 2 losses as well in Glory. has a loss to Israel Adesanya as well. So he's faced some really high level guys, but since transition to MMA, he's 9-3, and in the UFC, he's 1-0. His style, he's a lengthy, elite kickboxer. He's just huge for middleweight. He's 6'6". He's not very defensively sound, however, in really any aspect, and he has very little grappling experience. But I don't know. Maybe it just doesn't matter. If you train at Glover Teixeira's gym, you just won't be able to get taken down regardless. But my prediction for the fight, I do think Mansour Abdulmalik will win by round one submission. However, I think we will be able to tell very early on how this fight will go. If Mansour Abdulmalik goes in for a takedown and it gets stuffed, or if he lands but Belgarui is able to gather, get back to his feet, and then re-separate, that is very, very bad news for Abdulmalik because Belgarui is not somebody that you want to be standing in front of. He's a very, very good kickboxer. And yes, Mansour Abdulmalik is talented, but not at the level of that Belgarui is in terms of the striking. So I am going to trust Mansour Abdulmalik. I believe in him as a prospect, and I do think he is a very talented grappler. So I think he will be able to take him down to the mat, find the finish in round one. The fight to go under 2.5 rounds at minus 130 makes a lot of sense because I do think if it does stay standing, that Belgarui is going to be able to find a knockout. But I think Abdulmalik at minus 125 also makes a lot of sense as well. Should be a good one. But yeah, I think Mansour Abdulmalik gets it done. All right, next up, Julian Erosa versus Larian Douglas. Julian Erosa, notes on him, he went on The Ultimate Fighter, wins, gets cut right after, bounced around on the regional scene for a while, but now he's back with his second stint in the UFC after winning on the Contender Series. He's 9-8 overall in the UFC, being a bit of a streak fighter. He'll win a few, then lose a few, then win a few, then lose a few. His style, if he does not get put away early, which he has very frequently throughout his career, he will get knocked out in the first round frequently. But if you don't put him away early, he will stick around and become a very big problem. He will pressure forward, give one to take one. He's a very experienced fighter with a lot of professional fights and a super high finishing rate. His opponent, Larian Douglas, he went 12-5 on the regional scene, actually beat Javier Reyes to become champ in LFA. Goes on the Dana White Contender Series and gets a 30-second knockout. Now he's making his UFC debut. His style, he's a decent striker with speed and power, but he just wants to walk forward and hopefully land a big shot. I wasn't very impressed. He was fairly low output. My prediction for the fight, I think Erosa is going to knock him out in the first round. Erosa's plus 250, so a pretty big underdog, and I didn't really understand why. I didn't look at the odds until after I had watched both these guys and made my prediction. I was pretty surprised to see he was plus 250. I think the fight will no doubt end in a KO at minus 275. And the fight to go under 1.5 rounds at minus 160 makes sense, but I just think Erosa is, like I said, he has been knocked out in the first round before, so I think there is a world where Douglas does that. But I also think that there's the more likely possibility is that Julian Erosa knocks out Larian Douglas because, yes, Javier Reyes is a very good fighter, but I don't know. I think the power and danger of Erosa is just a little bit different. And it's 50-50, but I just like Erosa's skill set a little bit more. And I think that Douglas, yes, he is a power puncher, but, so is Erosa. So I think Erosa is able to hang in there, maybe weather the first few exchanges, and then land a big one to put him away in the first round. Next up, kind of a yucky one. Michael Chiesa versus Nico Price. Not sure why this is on the main card, but Michael Chiesa, he won the Ultimate Fighter back in 2012, has tons of UFC experience. He's a fun vet fighter. Despite being very unimpressive in his last 3 fights, he's won all 3 of them. So he's riding on that streak right now. His style, he's a strong BJJ grappler that just does not seem very interested in fighting anymore. Technical as a striker, but doesn't have the speed or the power to really do anything damaging. His opponent, Nico Price, he debuted in the UFC in 2016. He was a fun win-loss guy, but recently he's just been a major victim, being fed to elite prospects left and right. Someone protect this man. UFC, you should have cut him a while ago. I kind of feel bad for the guy, but his style, he's oddly durable, but not durable at the same time. I don't know. There's moments in the Jacoby Smith fight where it's like, oh, he's still up. And there was also a moment in the Jacoby Smith fight where it's like, is he gonna take over but he didn't. He got finished in that fight, but he wants to stand and bang, just does not have the speed or the chin to do so anymore. My prediction for the fight, I think Chiesa is going to get it done, but I think it's a unanimous decision. I think if Chiesa does take him down and get the fight where he wants. I don't know if he's going to be able to find a submission, and I don't think he has the danger or the power to put Nico Price away on the feet. And I'm not all that confident in Michael Chiesa winning this one either. He's been very unimpressive recently. I do think he is a better fighter than Nico Price, but the fight to go the distance at plus 210 is really the only thing I think is worth betting on in this entire fight. At plus 210, I think it's really good value, but yeah, not sure why this is on the main card. This is going to be, hopefully somebody will be able to find a finish, but I think it's going to really end up being kind of a stinker and a boring unanimous decision win for Michael Chiesa. All right, the co-main event: Macy Barber versus Alexa Grasso. Alexa Grasso, she's a former flyweight champion. She beat Shevchenko by rear naked choke, rematched her. It was a draw. Then they had a trilogy where she lost. Then she fights Natalia Silva in her most recent fight and loses. But regardless, she's still one of the top athletes in women's MMA. Her style, she's a BJJ grappler with really dangerous submission ability, especially the rear naked choke. Despite only having a couple, I think, in her entire career, it's still a very big threat and a part of her game. On the feet, she's got tight and quick striking, but she's just not very defensively sound. Her opponent, Macy Barber, her last loss actually comes to Alexa Grasso back in 2021. Since then, she's been on a 7-fight win streak, has not lost, becoming one of the top contenders in the division. Her style, she's a strong control grappler. She'll land good, nasty shots from top position, but her stand up is very average. I think she has pretty average hand speed and just an average striker. My prediction for the fight: I think Alexa Grasso will get it done by unanimous decision. I was surprised to figure out she was the underdog at plus 150. I'm a very firm believer of if you can beat somebody once, you can beat them again. And I think it's proved itself time and time again. Now, Macy Barber has definitely improved, and Alexa Grasso has gotten older since their most recent fight. But I think even in Macy Barber's most recent fight, I wasn't too against Karine Silva, I believe it was. I wasn't overly convinced. I think she ate a nasty illegal knee to the face or a kick to the face or something like that, and it took that to kind of flip the switch because that fight was not looking good for Macy Barber up to that point. And so, if she tries to ease her way into this fight with Alexa Grasso, I think it's going to be bad news. I think Alexa Grasso is a more talented striker, so and she has a speed advantage as well. So yeah, maybe Macy Barber can implement her grappling and kind of just lay in top position and control the fight and eke out a decision win. But I don't think so. I think Alexa Grasso is actually the better fighter. And at plus 150, Alexa Grasso submission at plus 1400. You're not telling me that there's not a good chance Macy Barber takes Alexa Grasso down and Grasso reverses and finds a submission. At plus 1400, I will gladly throw a couple bucks on that all day long. So yeah, I think Alexa Grasso gets it done, underdog win, and is right back inside of the title conversation because there's not really a whole lot of other people outside. I mean, outside of Natalia Silva, I don't really know if there's a whole lot of people left. So yeah, Alexa Grasso gets it done. Underdog win at plus 150. I think it just makes a lot of sense. Joe Pyfer versus Israel Adesanya. The main event: Israel Adesanya, who's a former Glory kickboxer, transitioned to MMA, joins the UFC, and just hits the ground running. Becomes champion of the middleweight division. Has 7 title fight wins. He's one of the best to ever do it. But recently, against today's top contenders, he has not looked the same. Style: he's a lower output, lengthy kickboxer, very technical approach. He used to be this very sharp guy that would move great and evade, but yes, in his last 4 fights, he has fought, the elite of the division, Dreykus, Sean, Imavov, things like that. But like I said, I'm not saying he's washed. He just does not look like the champion Israel Adesanya that we've seen in the past. Joe Pyfer, his opponent, he had a good regional scene run, loses on the contender series, and goes back a couple of years later, finds a win, starts his UFC career with 3 straight finishes, then loses to Jack Hermanson, of all people. But he's now back on a 3-fight win streak and is facing a huge step up in Israel Adesanya. His style, he's an impressive power puncher that can really hurt his opponents. I mean, there are some clips of him on the regional scene flipping off lights big time. And he's also a very strong grappler, though. He's a BJJ black belt and has plenty of submission ability. My prediction for the fight: look, I've got Joe Pyfer knocking him out in the 3rd round. However, I think there are 2 very distinct ways the fight goes. I think Adesanya will either outclass him with the footwork, use the distance. Just we'll see a classic Izzy performance where he styles on some guy that should not be in the octagon with them quite yet. Or we see what I believe is going to happen, which is Joe Pyfer clipping Israel Adesanya. And this prediction really, because I had Israel Adesanya by decision really up until today at the time of recording. And it just comes from Israel Adesanya over the last in his last three losses. He's been clipped badly in all of them. The Imavov fight, even before, the eye poke, Imavov clipped him pretty bad. Sean Strickland clipped him badly. DDP was able to land well, and I just don't know. I mean, I think Israel Adesanya is smart enough to, stop himself from being backed up against the cage, which is where Joe Pyfer kind of does his best work. But Joe Pyfer is so strong that it's just hard for me to believe that he's not, over the course of 25 minutes, he's not going to land at least one big shot that will put away Israel Adesanya. Now, if Israel Adesanya is able to recover from that, there is still a way, like I said, where he kind of dances around and is able to pick up a decision win. But unfortunately, I mean, I'm not the biggest Israel Adesanya fan, but I know a lot of people are. So, unfortunately, I do think Joe Pyfer is going to win by round three knockout. Emerging star, maybe in the middleweight division, if he gets it done. He's probably going to have to go through a few more fights to enter himself in like real title contention. But yeah, I think Joe Pyfer gets it done. Big win for him. And Israel Adesanya, I'm not sure what's going to be next for him if he loses this fight. It's going to be tricky, but should be a fun main event regardless. All right, to recap everything, I hope you guys know, like, I make these and then I format it the way that I do so that you guys can formulate your own opinions on these guys and you can decide whether or not, maybe you favor some guy's strengths differently than I do. But that's why I do it the way I do. So hopefully you guys can differ in opinions from what I think based off of the information that I give you if you guys don't have the time or the knowledge to just go through and watch everybody. But to recap all the bets, I do not feel great this week at all. I did super well on the Vallejos Emmett card, went 13-0 last week. I feel like I am just completely due to be brought way back down to earth. I've picked a significant amount of underdogs again. I don't know, and I don't feel great about some of the favorites that I've picked either. But high value straights are over there on the left. Those are things you put low amounts of money on for potential high return. And then parlay legs are things that you should combine into 3 or 4 picks and end up having yourself a nice parlay out of those. I think Sterling KO decision, Tyrana money line, Hooper money line, Simone money line, Bahamondes money line all make great sense. And McKinney under 1.5 rounds are all things with relatively good value that you can combine in some sort of way and get yourself a good parlay. Should be a fun card this weekend. There's some card. I mean, I think the Chiesa fight being on the main card is kind of holding this back, but overall, a really strong card. I think there'll be some fun fights in there. I'm excited for it. And I'm also excited because, like, it's not really like last week where there's a lot of knowns. I think there's a lot of unknowns, like a lot of unknowns with this fight. And, I don't know who's going to win, Joe Pyfer or Israel Adesanya. I'm doing my best at kind of predicting, but I really don't know. And yeah, should be a really fun card. They're going to be in Seattle. It'll be crowded, so it'll be nice and fun. Looking forward to it big time. I'm going to make a recap video. Then I'm also going to make I am going to make a featherweight matchmaking video and my UFC hot takes video. So that should be fun. Hopefully I'll get both of those uploaded. These take a lot of time to make, so I don't really have a whole lot of time to do things to make a whole bunch of videos that aren't these, especially with school and everything like that. But I hope you guys like this. Let me know who you guys have. Let me know if you think I'm a dumbass. Let me know if you think I done a good job. Like I said, on a pretty good hot streak right now. I think we are destined to be brought back down to earth big time. But this is what I got this week, and yeah, I will see you guys after the card for the recap. See ya.